All right, we are going to our next assignment and our next unit. So assignment 3 is going to be our last project that uses only raster-based imaging, which means it's our last chance to just play with pixels and understand pixels without having to worry about other types of digital images like vectors. But we are going to do the very most we can with it. It's unit 7. We are going to be animating this. So we are going to be animating these pixels in a time-based way, which means that we, as the creators, control what the viewer sees and how long they see it. So if you want a smooth animation, like all of these animated buttons, these are all GIFs. These are animated at 24 frames per second, which is professional standard, right? But GIF animations can really vary in how many frames per second they're timed at. And what we're going to be required to do is to do a minimum of 9 frames and a maximum of about 50 frames, right? So we can work between that. The more frames you do, the smoother it will be. But the most important thing is that it showcases a change. So I call this a transformation animation, because there are 2 requirements to what you animate. Your animation needs to include some asset that you've already designed in the class. It can come from exercise 1, it can come from exercise 0, it can come from exercise 2, it can come from assignment 1 or assignment 2, right? We just finished proving ground number 1, where we put our creatures from assignment 2 into our landscapes for assignment 1. So if you wanted to animate using one or both of those assets, this might be what your sketch looks like, because this is what I'm doing for the morning class. So in a 3x3 storyboard, this is a rough sketch, which is kind of your script for this one scene transformation animation. I establish my setting, and my setting is going to be the landscape I created for assignment 1. Next, I'm going to introduce my character. My character comes into the frame, and that character could be from something totally elsewhere, right? I could take it from online somewhere. I could paint or draw my own character. This is the first time we can create our own pixels like that. Or I could use my creature I designed from assignment 2, and that's what I'm doing in the morning class. So my creature comes in, which is this big kind of bird creature. The creature is going to grab a tree, eat that tree up, and then it's going to eat the foreground, and then it's going to eat the middle ground, and then it's going to eat the background, and then it's going to leave. So what is the transformation? The creature doesn't transform, right? The creature just moves, right? But the landscape transforms. So this is a transformation of the setting. Even if it was just the tree, right? The tree gets pulled up by its roots. And so at first you're not seeing the tree, then you reveal its roots, and then it gets gobbled up and broken. So that tree changes from being intact to being not intact, right? That's a transformation. How do you define a transformation? It's not just a movement, it's a change from beginning, middle to end. So that's what I'm doing with the morning class, and I'm using assignment 1 and 2. For this class, I'm going to use my exercise 2 emoji, which isn't any easier or harder, but it's different because we used vector shapes to make the emoji. So that gives us very clean pixels to work with, which is a bit of a burden because it means everything we add needs to also be clean pixels, unless we just want to dirty all those pixels up as part of the animation, which we could. So you have endless possibilities here, but I want you to start with something you've already designed. The next requirement is that it features a transformation, so let's try to understand what that means. So in order to plan it out, animation is all about planning, it's all about layer organization, it's all about understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you can get to what you want to have happen through the things you create, right? So it's very mechanical, you know, and you have to have like all your tools laid out and you have to know where everything is in order to put it together. Otherwise, it can be just incredibly frustrating. But here we see a transformation. You know, a yellow face emoji turning to this kind of horned demon emoji, and it's a transformation of color, it's a transformation of horns, it's a transformation of eye color, right? Here we have a transformation of a creature in its background, and the creature transforms rather than the background transforming. So the background doesn't change at all. You just get a panning shot of it. But the creature starts as this kind of rock that rolls in and then transforms, transformer style, into this kind of crab-like creature. Now notice all of these are going to take place in one setting. So we're doing a one scene animation. We're not going from the bedroom to the nightclub, all in 9 frames, because that's just too much storytelling to try to fit in. But they're also more than just a movement test. A movement test is to show how a character would move, but we need to showcase more than just movement. We need to show transformation. So what transforms here is the nose grows, right? And the eyes actually transform to having little hearts blinking in them. That's a change from beginning, middle to end. Everything else doesn't change. It just moves. So that tongue doesn't transform. It just gets revealed. Does that make sense? The confetti doesn't transform. It just falls, right? The hearts don't transform. We zoom in on them, like they get bigger. But for something to actually change state, it needs to change beginning, middle to end, like the nose being this short, then longer, then longest. And then this one, this is a transformation of both the setting and the character. But it would work if it was just a transformation of the setting. So what do I mean? Well, the setting gets really, really stormy and cold. There's an ice storm, right? And the colors of the setting change, and the textures of the setting change. Now that's really sold through the creature also freezing into a block of ice and then slowly thawing out. But if it wasn't a creature, let's say it was a little bush in the setting, if that really froze, that would sell that transformation as well. So character is anything that the viewer experiences the story through, whether it's an animate object or not. So I've used this example in the past. If I have a paperclip on a desk, I can make that into a story by just showing the paperclip changing day to day, right? Or showing the paperclip stay the same, but the clutter on the desk changing around it. So the character would be the paperclip because that's what we're experiencing the change through. All right. So when we get right to it, GIF animations are a lot of fun. They're everywhere in our visual world online because GIF animations are the only type of animation format that plays automatically within a browser. You don't need any extra software to view it, right? You don't need QuickTime. You don't need Movie Player. You don't need Flash, right? They just automatically play. And the reason they do that is because GIFs are limited to only 256 pixel colors. Because that's such a low bar of quality for memory, they can actually load a whole stack of images and then play it in sequence. That's what's called an animation script. So all of these are very low quality images, but played back to back. Whoops. What happened there? Here, I'll pause. So here we have a transformation at the top of the assignment that's very subtle. It's just the light changing, right, from day to night. What it's missing, well, actually it has it, but we want a change of state from beginning, middle to end. So what's the beginning, what's the middle, what's the end? I don't know. The beginning is that the sun is bright. The middle is the transition of pulling the cord, right? So that activates it. And then the end is that it's night. And then it can go backwards. What about this one? We start with the yellow emoji. And then pretty gruesomely, it loses all its skin. We see its muscles, and then it strips away to the skull, and then it builds back up. So do you see a change of state beginning, middle to end? Yes. Clear transformation. What about this one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. If the light from the phone was just kind of moving up and down, that wouldn't be a transformation. But because when the light changes on the phone, it totally changes to a different image to like kind of a sun or a crescent moon and two eyes. This is a reveal of something that's already there, but it does it in such a way that we understand beginning, middle, and end to it. So I would say this is a transformation. So you see from subtle to really obvious. What about these three? Now, one of these does not showcase a transformation. Yes, the first one, though it's fun and we zoom in on it and there's lots of movement and lots of expression, there is no change between beginning, middle, and end to what's actually being shown, right? All we have is a camera move. What about this one? So clear transformation, right? Also a fun example where you don't need a setting in order for a setting to be understood by the viewer. So this tells us, oh, there's a floor, right? Even if you don't show it, we're going to assume it. And then what about this one? This is called an additive transformation, right? It starts with nothing, things get added on, and then that changes the situation, right? Would it be a transformation without that kind of glowing at the end? Not so much. It would be just adding something on, right? And then you have no middle. So you want to think beginning, middle, end, change of state. Now here's the real test. Of these 9, which ones are transformations and which ones are just movement? So we'll start with the easy. The trash can on fire, which is a really handy gift to have at the moment. But is it movement or is it transformation? Yep, just movement. Because we don't see what happened before the trash can got set on fire, and we don't see the consequences of after the fire has been put out, right? Yep, exact same thing with the laptop on fire. Even though that fire is moving even more, right? It's just a movement test. Same thing with the nose dripping, right? So the mucus is revealed, but it doesn't change state. It just moves. What about the woman flipping her hair? It's just a movement test, right? If the hair changed color, if the haircut changed, we'd have beginning, middle, end. Now, what about this one? This is kind of tricky. Just a movement. So if you've ever seen the old Linda Carter Wonder Woman live-action TV series, right? You'll see GIFs of it. She just spins around really fast and changes from her regular clothes to Wonder Woman. That's a transformation. But this is like if she was in her regular clothes, spun around in her regular clothes. Spun around. So we have beginning and middle, but we have no end. We have no consequence, right? So not a transformation. So the other ones that do showcase a little bit of a transformation, I would say very subtly is this one. Not because of the teeth, because the teeth are just revealed, but because the eyes actually do change. Do you see that? The white gets introduced and then they grow. So you have beginning, middle, end. You have the one that's deflating. This doesn't have much of a middle transition, but it works because it can go forward and backwards, right? So it's not just going from being full to being deflated. It transitions to deflating through it, right? So that is a transformation, a change of state, beginning, middle to end. And then this one, I would art critique it as not being enough of a transformation. Because strangely, it has beginning and it has end, right? Like its expression changes, but that's just movement. But it just cuts really quickly. So if I was art director, I'd say that's the one that needs work of those 9, right? Because even as a movement test, it's a little jarring. So the eyes change shape, but that's expression. And then the water appears from the eyes. So the water appearing is different than it began, but it doesn't have any convincing transition, beginning, middle to end. Now the ones that are really clear, the clearest transformation is this one, right? So the eye reveals, but then it actually causes that psychedelic color change. And that's clear difference, beginning, middle to end. And you just think of it in terms of storyboarding. First you show the eye close, then you show it open, then you show all these weird color effects happen. And that's the transformation. All right. Sometimes transformations are incredibly strong, right? And the focus, as in the examples of all 3 of these. But why I wanted to show these 3, not only are they fun, but they all share an asset. So animation uses assets, and those assets can get reused. So what asset do they all have in common? It's the exact same skull in all of them, yes.